Hello Peat Pals, I've got a nice little Islay mystery malt to share with you today. And I love the presentation on this one, it's light-hearted, filthy smoke 10-year-old. So it comes in this sort of matte finish, kind of home inkjet type label, sort of thin matte paper, screw top, dark glass bottle with a little paper seal on the top. So considering that this is a mystery malt, we know a little bit, probably more than your average mystery malt, but not too much. We know this is 10-year-old Islay single malt Scotch whisky. It's bottled at a curious 42.8% ABV. So why they didn't go with 46, why they didn't even go with 43, that is a very strange choice of number, but maybe that was just what they got when they mixed some casks together, who knows. But that is what we've got. It's much better than 40, although 46 would have been even better. So we know this is going to be pretty heavily peated, or it should be, because they've called it filthy smoke. Interestingly, we also know from the label and some of the marketing blurb from this one that they've put some sherry casks in there, and even more interestingly than that, they're saying that there's some sulphured sherry casks. So sulphur is something that some people appreciate. I admit that I do in small quantities. Some people hate and just don't get on with it. But I think that has potential to make a sherried, heavily peated whiskey that bit more interesting if it's done well. Something else that we know from this one, and it's not obvious to anyone that's not in the know, but if you look at the side label, I don't know if it's going to focus, but it is a product of Scotland, and it's also an Atom Labs product. So for anyone that knows their whiskey world, that means that this is a Master of Malt product. So the bad news with this one is that I've had this one on my radar for probably about a year. I think it's been out for probably nearly 2 years, and I've only just got around to buying it a couple of weeks ago, and sadly, sod's law, it seems to have been discontinued. It's been out of stock on the Master of Malt website for about a week after I bought it. So sadly it does seem like this might be one that you might find hard to find, which is really annoying for me, having just bought this and got to know it, I've done my notes, and then to find out that it may be no more. But I think this one's been fairly well received. Hopefully Master of Malt will bring it back at some point. So price on this one. This is, full price was about £27.50 I think here in the UK, which seems like a really good price until you realise that it's not a full bottle. It is a 500cl, so 500 millilitres in here, so you're getting considerably less than you would out of a full bottle. Although £27.50 for a 500ml bottle, that works out as just under £40 for a full-size bottle, which for a 10-year-old Islay Mystery Malt is still kind of okay. So let's get the screw top off. Let's get some in the glass. They're really going with the filthy industrial and medicinal theme with this one, aren't they? That really looks like something that a Victorian would keep arsenic or something in. Looks very much like an old-fashioned medicine bottle. There is also another similar kind of sister product to this, which I haven't had. I think it's called Burnt Ends, which is a blend of peated Scotch and Kentucky rye whiskey. Now that's obviously a blend. I think it sells for a similar price, and that is still available. Haven't had that though. If you have had it, let me know if you thought that was any good. So, filthy smoke 10-year-old on the nose. So yeah, filthy smoke. That's a surprise, isn't it? Also quite fruity as well though. It's not your average dumb Islay peat bomb. It's not got that incredibly sweet, overly phenolic sort of one-trick pony note that you get from a lot of youngish Lafroig and things like that. Apart from the filthy smoke, you've got quite a nice brininess there, some nice sharp lemon notes, also getting quite a pleasant banana note on the nose, which is, it always makes me think of Caol Ila, especially your older Caol Ilas, which this obviously isn't, but older Caol Ila I quite often get a banana note. Dirty, industrial smokiness, a little touch of mineral oil on the nose. confectionery, like raspberry flavoured opal fruits. I'd say that the nose of this one at least is more industrial and peaty and spirity rather than strictly medicinal. So it's that kind of Islay. Although, has to be said, quite a complex peatiness, and there is a little touch of germaline on the nose as well, and a little bit of licorice. Let's see how it tastes. So, we haven't got any guarantee if this is natural colour or non-chill filtered, but the colour of that, what do you think? Almost certainly is natural colour, but how clear it is, almost certainly chill filtered as well, probably. But on the palate, lots of dry peated grist, lovely sharp lemony spirit mixed perfectly with that sweet and chocolatey Oloroso type sherry. So the sherry is definitely there, definitely present. It definitely has an impact and effect on the flavours that go into this whiskey. I think that on the palate, almost certainly because of that lowish ABV, it is slightly more watery than I would like, but it still has enough power to be enjoyable. Lots of peatiness on the palate, dirty, earthy, really earthy peat smoke. There's also a lovely grapefruit astringency on the palate of this as well, and I'm pleased to say that I'm getting a little hint of smoky, sulphury spent matches on this as well. So maybe slightly psychological, but I do think that there is evidence of that sulphury quality that they've advertised. Let's have one more sip. Finish could be bolder, but long enough, medium length, very satisfying, good finish, with lots of burnt grist and dry peatiness. So we know the drill. If this was at 46%, it would be a significant improvement, but it's for a very reasonable price. It's kind of what you expect. I think that it's on par with the Aerolite Lindsay release, which is also a Master of Malt product. Anyone that's had that, I think this is about as good as that. Possibly slightly thinner and a bit less presence than the Aerolite Lindsay, but a reasonably similar experience. I think that compared to things like Smokehead, it's probably got a bit less power than that as well, even though the Smokehead is only 0.2% ABV higher. I think that the style of the two whiskies, with the Smokehead, you do get a bit more punchiness. But to this whiskey's credit, I think that the Filthy Smoke 10-year-old is more complex, and it's a slightly dirtier, more aggressive style of peat than the Smokehead. I think that despite the fact that they've kind of almost sabotaged this whiskey by dropping the ABV even below 43%, it does do surprisingly well for the strength. And I'd even say that it probably does better for the strength than things like the Lagavulin 16. I think that the Lagavulin 16 at 43%, even though it's a very expensive whiskey now, edging up towards £100, and it's 16 years old from a very prestigious distillery, I think that, in my opinion, the Lagavulin 16, at least in its modern presentation, is a very underpowered whiskey at 43%. This one, because the price is lower, and because it's perhaps just a bit more of a punchier style, and it's got that power coming through from the youth as well, I think it does better for that low ABV. So where does this whiskey come from? It's always hard to say. When you consider that a lot of whiskey that leaves Islay distilleries and goes to independent bottlers, it's often because it's uncharacteristic casks. It might be experimental casks or just outlier rogue casks that doesn't represent their house style that they want to show us. And also because this has been in those sulphured sherry casks, it could be very different to the normal whiskey that we see from whatever distillery this is from. Saying that, as goes for a lot of these Islay mystery malts, I do think that Kalila is the easy guess, with that fruity, sharp lemon and grapefruit and very industrial, punchy peatiness. I do think that this is probably another Kalila, although it has to be said that it also has something of Ardbeg about it, with that acrid peated grapefruit. I think that this is a very, very different style of peat and a different style of sherry to what you get from Bunnahabhain, so I don't think it's Stoischer or anything like that. And I think it's much too fruity to be anything that's currently coming out of Laphroaig. So as for a grade for this one, pleased to say, and I hope that this stuff does come back in stock, because I'm going to give this one a B. I think that it's a really enjoyable, affordable, highly recommended whiskey, providing that you're not the kind of person that really struggles with his lowish ABVs. If they did bottle this stuff at 46, I could easily see this being a B+. But it's a very, very respectable effort nonetheless, and I really hope we see it again. Thanks for watching, and cheers.